There is one very simple premise when it comes to day trading, understanding that there will always be more trades to come. This same ideology plays into being a surfer as well. And I think there's a lot of similarities between being a surfer and being a day trader. I know, surfing, day trading, what are the similarities, Patrick? We're going to talk about those similarities right here in this video. If surfers can do it, well, day traders can do it. Let's go. What's going on, guys? Patrick here, live from the beautiful island of Oahu, surfing capital of the world, North Shore of Oahu. Lots of surfers, lots of waves, big waves, little waves, all types of waves. Today, I want to talk about the idea of what it's like to be a surfer and understanding a couple things, a couple ideas when it comes to surfing. When you go surfing, you know a couple things, right? You know that there will always be more waves, that there will be more opportunities, that when you miss a wave, you're going to get another wave. When you're on the wave, you got to ride the wave. And then finally, when the wave stops, you jump off the wave. You're not upset. You don't cry. You don't get mad. Oh, man, the wave, it kept going or whatever it is. You just paddle back out. You wait for another wave. And that's very similar to day trading, right? We talk a lot about the idea of trading the wave, trading the overall flow in the market. You can see here on the chart, pulling up the Enqueue here. This is the 1 minute chart. We got the MACD at the bottom. We've got the trend line breaks. We got all that fun stuff. If we look at the chart in hindsight, we see that there was multiple setups on Friday. I mean, you had one perfect breakdown. You had a breakdown there. You had a break up, break down, break down. I mean, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 setups, maybe more throughout the day in general. But looking back, we see that there was at least 8 setups. So what we know is if we go and we think about it, if we go back to the beginning of day on Friday, it's like, okay, you know, we missed out on this first wave. The market is now setting up to break down right here. But guess what? Oh, we don't trade it. Let's just say we don't trade this first move because, you know, for some reason we're like, well, we don't miss it. So we missed out on that first move. Well, now we're like, oh, what are we going to do? When is going to be the next setup? How are we going to do? The emotion, right? We get this emotion as day traders where when we miss out on a setup, we start to go on tilt. We start to do stupid stuff. Like maybe you try to buy the dip here. Let's say you try to buy the dip thinking it's going to push back up. And then guess what? It ends up doing what? It ends up going lower. The minute that you buy, oh, it starts going lower. So then you're like, oh no, it's going lower again. So then what do? You end up trying to short down here at the bottom. And guess what? Well, we haven't got our setup yet. You had a little bit of a setup right there, but in general, we haven't like gotten the actual strategy. Well, it went a little bit lower there, but in general, like, okay, now you chased it down, you got to move, but then guess what? It starts to come back up. You get stopped out right here and you're like, oh man, you're on tilt, right? The problem is once you go from taking a good setup where you're focused on like the actual good setups, and then all of a sudden you now miss out on a setup and your emotion takes over and you start not actually trading with a strategy. You just simply start trading based on emotions and the FOMO and missing out and all these things. FOMO is a very real thing, right? The fear of missing out. And the problem is when you miss out on a trade, it's almost like a switch goes off where you start to just go, oh my gosh, I missed out on a trade. What am I going to do now? And you start forcing trades. You start trying to chase and you start getting bad entries. And those bad entries lead you to losing money. So, you know, the market keeps going here and you're like, oh, now what? Well, look, all of a sudden, here comes our setup. We got our trend line about to get broken here. We got our trend line about to get broken here. Our setup is forming. So what do we got to do? All we got to do is just be patient and sit back, wait, watch. Okay, now we got our break. We're getting short. There we go. Now we go from the 420s down there to the 380s. We're in the trade. We take our profit. Bang, right? We knew that there was another setup to come. At least as a day trader, the idea of like being a surfer, right? What do we know? What do we know when we go surfing? That if we miss out on a wave, there's going to be another wave to come. Every day, there's like, you know, hundreds of waves coming in, and you're going to either catch a wave, you're going to miss out, you're going to fall, you're going to crash, whatever it is. You're going to take that wave, you're going to miss it, but you know that there's more waves to come. And that's this like very important emotion and belief as a day trader, that if you miss out on a trade, let's say you don't get the best trade of the day, the market starts moving, you're like, oh, I missed out on this. Well, what's the deal, right? All we got to do is just, well, we missed out on one, because we know what? We know that there's more setups coming. The same way that if I go surfing and I miss out on a wave, I know that like, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to cry about it? Am I going to sit there and be like, oh, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to paddle back out. I'm going to set up. I'm going to get ready. And then I'm going to look for that next wave opportunity. And that's the same exact thing that we do as day traders. We miss out on a trade. We take a trade, whatever it is. Then we look for the next opportunity. The problem too for a lot of people is, let's say you end up missing out on the wave, or you're not in it at the right time, or whatever it is, and the wave breaks on you. Like we talk about this, right? Like if you think about it in terms of trying to maybe at the end, what happens if we get in at the wrong time? What if we, have this emotion, or like, oh man, the same way that if I go and I try to paddle into a big wave and I'm paddling in late, guess what's going to happen? There's a very high chance that I get dumped on, right? The wave is going to peak up and then it's going to dump on me. The same way as like, we know the overall trend is moving down, but we have this emotion sometimes. We missed out on the move down, and now we're like, we want to get long. We're going to buy here. And then guess what happens? It goes and then dumps on me. That's the same exact thing with surfing. If I try to paddle into the wave late, what's going to happen? It's going to break on me and I'm going to get crushed. And that's the same exact thing with day trading. If I end up trying to buy here, at the top of this wave, this pushback up, and I know that I'm like, oh, I'm FOMOing into it. I'm just focused so much on the small time frames here. And I'm like, oh man, this is not going to work out. Guess what? All of a sudden, it's like, market sells off, pulls back to the 390s. And at this point, I just got dumped on because I FOMO'd into this, right? That's the emotion. It's not a strategy. You don't have a strategy here. You're buying at the top of this move when you know the overall trend is down. If we zoom out here, we can see, guess what? We have resistance right there. We just bought at resistance. I see this happen so many times. People end up FOMOing into the little move back up because they missed out on the move down. And then all of a sudden, the bigger trend kicks back in. You had a little bit of a breakout right there, but in general, the issue is we know the overall trend is pointing down. So do we want to really be buying these like resistance areas knowing that we have resistance right through there? Like, no, we don't, obviously. So again, it's like making sure that you're entering the wave at the right time is just as important as having a strategy. You can't try to paddle into the wave at the top. You can't try to buy into the wave at the top knowing that the overall momentum is what? Pointing down here. So again, timing is everything, but also not trying to chase a move, not trying to buy at the top. It's that like simple to really think about here. Also comparing day trading with surfing, location, right? If you paddle out to a surf break and you know that there's a spot where the wave breaks at, but you don't sit there, if you don't wait for that spot to break, if you sit in the wrong spot, if you try to sit over there to the left, to the right, and you missed out on the wave, that's the same thing with day trading. If you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm going to try to get in at this spot, knowing that there's either like something going on like resistance or there's support, whatever it is, fighting your overall idea, like that's not a good spot to get in. Same thing with surfing. If I paddle out and I try to catch a wave at the wrong spot, well, I'm probably not going to catch the wave. So again, it's very important, to think about the location, think about the timing. There's going to be more opportunities. There's going to be more setups. Knowing this, believing this, knowing this, and really meditating on that fact, like really owning it, being like, okay, look, I know that if I miss out on a setup, if I get stopped out, if I have a loser, whatever it is, I know that there's more setups to come. There are going to be more opportunities, the same way that there will be more waves to catch. So you really have to own this. You have to believe this, like deep down. You have to tell yourself, like, okay, today I'm not going to chase. I'm not going to FOMO. I'm not going to get emotional. I'm not going to go on tilt. I'm not going to get mad. Then the same thing is like, if we don't take profit at the right time, let's say you get into a trade, you take profit, you take a $300 profit, but it goes higher. It's like, who cares, right? Like I talk about it a lot. And I mean, I also still battle it. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have held it longer. But at the same time, it's like, that's almost negative and like bad juju, right? It's bad emotion or bad, like kind of emotion, right? Like you're kind of creating this emotion around taking profit at the right time, or taking profit in general. Like if you're in a trade and you take profit, there you go. You did what you needed to do. You took your target, you hit it, the market went higher. Who cares? You got into a trade, you took profit. You've got to reinforce the fact that, number one, you took a trade, right? A lot of people have that problem. They can't pull the trigger. Number two, you took profit at the right spot. Either way, like you took profit where your target was. You had a plan, you had a setup, you took profit, the market went higher. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Problem is, if you start to self-doubt, if you start to think to yourself like, man, I should have held longer. Oh, why does this always happen? Why? You create this like really bad emotion around actually winning. So you're a winning trader, you took profit, but you're creating this negative emotion about that. So your mind is almost like tricked into thinking that what you did was wrong, and you're subliminally teaching yourself that if you're taking profit, that you should either hold longer, or you shouldn't take profit as soon, or whatever it is. Like you're creating this negative emotion around actually winning. Like you're doing what you need to do. You follow the plan. You won the trade. It all worked out beautifully, but guess what? You're creating this negative emotion around it. You're like, man, I took profit at the wrong time. It went higher. Now you're creating this negative emotion, and you're reinforcing this negativity around actually winning. So it's almost like, how many times do you enter a trade and you end up hitting your stop loss, and you're like, man, hit my stop loss. And then it's almost like you're reinforcing losing. Like you're teaching yourself to lose more than teaching yourself to win. Very key ideas, very simple ideas here, my friends. Very simple ideas here, my friends. If you paddle into the wave late, you're probably going to get crushed. If you don't follow the plan, you're probably going to get crushed. But you got to understand one the simplest idea here is that there will always be more setups. There will always be more waves. There will always be more opportunities. If you miss out on a trade, who cares? We're on to the next one. Next opportunity could be even better. If you guys haven't already hit that like button, subscribe button, all the buttons down below, I will talk to you guys. Well, hit them right now. Hit them right now. I'll talk to you guys later on.